Let's just welcome her. I love to start that way. All right. Now, I tell all my First Friday speakers at the beginning, they get to have a commercial. So, Chef Terrie, give us your commercial. What do you do, and what would people like from you?
Oh, my goodness. What I do is, first of all, I love a captive audience, so thank you, everyone, for being here. I love to talk food and empower people. I think that's why I do cooking classes. And we all need to eat, so if I can't teach it, I'll cater it. So I will provide for you however it needs, your needs might be. So yes, I cater, I teach cooking classes, I'm a private chef, I bake to order, and I've added on cookbook author. So there's another avenue that you can cook for yourself in your home, and I've always been a big fan of. My MO is that the recipes that I create, you can make them. They're kitchen friendly and easy to follow. And
how can they reach you?
They can reach me best by email, just because I'm a one-woman army and it's 24/7. I know many of you can appreciate that. So it's Terrie, Terrie, at countryclubmkt.com. I'm also available on Facebook, Country Club Market, where I share lots of recipes and jokes, and if there's a holiday like Kentucky Derby, there'll be lots of recipes and things if you're going to have a party, and events like this that I post. And so going into my 16th year, and so I committed my past 15 to a cookbook, and so that's been a huge catalyst. And Bobby, I have to call out people because I didn't do this on my own.
Yeah.
And Holly,
Perfect.
who are here.
Perfect.
And those of you who have purchased it and been at signings, I couldn't do it without you.
And we're giving away a free cookbook, so if you didn't already put your business card in the bowl out front, make sure you do that before we do the drawing. All right. Well, let's get started. And I think after visiting with you, I have to start with, we're going to start with your background and how you grew up, because I think this passion for food and cooking, that's where it came from. And so let's start with your home. Let's say with growing up and the home environment and all these wonderful food and entertaining stories.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just start this out with, I'm on a God-driven journey. This is not anything that I pre-planned. It's all been discovered in hindsight that this is where I'm meant to be. So with that in mind, when I was young, my mother is a great cook, and she would never make the same thing twice, and she was always experimenting. And yes, I learned to love liver and onions with bacon fat. And so I would sit on the counter and I'd watch her navigate the kitchen. So I could, see in the sink, I could see in the stove, and we had a small enough home. It seemed big at the time. When I go by there now, it's like, so it's small, the yard and everything. But, so I would watch her navigate the kitchen, and, who knew these seeds were getting planted for this time of my life. And she would entertain her bridge club. And those of you who are my age or thereof, she would have bridge club, and she'd set the 4-card tables or the 2-card tables and get matching tallies and napkins, and she'd make great appetizers, and all the ladies would come and they'd smell good and they'd be laughing and having fun. And my dad would do the same thing with he had a Century 21 franchise, so he'd have his agents and spouses, and my mom would make the appetizers. And so these people would come in smelling good and laughing and conversing and eating, and Dad with the ice crusher. And so these are things that I kind of, stowed away. And so that's like sort of the beginning.
Yeah. And so your career, you were in and out of food.
Mm-hmm.
type work. So just talk about that journey of before you went to culinary school. So
Okay.
kind of your journey, your path with that.
Sure. I started with a divorce, and I went home, and that lasted 10 years of just treading water, and I'm not good at that. I like to take risks. So I moved to Des Moines and became a food service food broker. And new town, new apartment. I had the satellite office out of the Quad Cities. I had 16 distributors with 43 lines. And that was a huge undertaking. It was, yeah. And I did that for 3 years without any street support. And so, you know, to save face, I had to bail out for a time just to, you know, because I couldn't support that. They weren't giving me street support with the headquarter calls. So I took some time out, got called back into another brokerage where I had one line and one distributor, which worked out very well. And so about this time, then my girlfriends talked to me about cooking for a living. And then the distributor that I serviced had a buying position, so I went into buying for Cisco, Iowa. And so then I knew all the players that were going to call on me when I became a chef.
That you didn't know.
So see the circle, how he works?
So you mentioned, let's talk about your tribe a little bit. You had your mama and your dad. That kind of was that initial tribe.
Yes.
And then you have a very influential group of women.
Yes.
So talk to us about.
Okay. All right. So this is funny. So we are called the Poker Girls. I don't know if any of you have heard me talk about the Poker Girls. There's 6 of us. So we would rotate monthly, and we would play poker. We'd eat, we'd drink, and we'd talk. And eventually, something had to go because there just wasn't enough time for everything. So you can guess what went. Poker. though we still are the Poker Girls. So when they come to my house, I would do like a theme. So it might be, I don't know, Moroccan or Mediterranean or New Orleans or something, and so I'd research and do the full meal. And then the next girl may order in a pizza. But
I never wanted to follow you. They're like, please.
So they eventually said, you need to do this for a living. And I thought, I never thought of that. But then I thought, well, you know, I can't go on a wing and a prayer. I need to go to school. And so that led me to look for a culinary institute.
And how did you find that?
The National Restaurant Association show, which I attended every year in Chicago, had a booth set up, and it was the New England Culinary Institute. And as a young girl, we traveled through Canada down the East Coast, and I remembered Vermont. Something was calling me back to Vermont. I don't know if you've ever had a feeling like that, where you've been somewhere and there's just something there that you gravitate toward. So I turned the corner, and there was a Culinary Institute in Vermont, and that's all it took. But the best part of it was a 7-to-1 ratio. So there was 7 of us to 1 instructor as we went through the kitchen stations. So it was really hands-on, and it was in Vermont at the Inn at Essex, a beautiful resort. And
how long does that take?
It's a 2-year program.
Yeah.
An
So
ALS.
you had to move. Is it 2
I
years
did,
continuous? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a story, shall we?
Of course.
So I put what I could in my car, and I said, move over, Julia, as I traveled. So as I traveled east, lo and behold, when I did my first 6 months, which is what I call liberal arts. It's like your knife skills, your food history, your herbs and spices, and then you go on internship. And so before I left, I applied for some scholarships. And when I got to Southampton, where I interned in Montauk, I got a phone call, and they said, we want to award you the scholarship, but we need you to come to Boston. And I'm like, oh, I can't afford to do that, to take off work and the flight fare. And they said, well, but Julia Child will be here to award it to you. So, yes, I said, where, what time? So I don't know if you noticed the picture out on the table, but she travels with me. And that was the summer of '97 that I received that scholarship. And so, it's another God thing. He's so apparent in my life. And so then I went back to school, and then we did more of the hands-on, the a la carte, the pastry, the dessert, the line, the service, and all of those. And then ideally, your second internship is where you will stay. So I came back to Des Moines.
Perfect. Talk a little bit about school. We talked a little bit about the male-female ratio because it was and maybe still is a fairly heavy male-dominated industry. And what was that like in school?
Well, this is '96, ladies. I was 40. Now you know how old I am. The average was a 25-year-old male.
Might not be as studious as a 40-year-old female.
As focused. Well, yeah, when it was my money and my, career, I had a whole different perception. What do you find now, Jasmine?
It's still.
Is it still heavily male?
Yeah.
It is. I'm a little surprised to hear that. But
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, so we got get in there,
Getting
knockouts.
better, but it's still.
Okay.
All right, we can do it, can't we?
Yeah.
Were the instructors all male?
No, there were some females, but it was through that. And then catering, of course. And it was through that period where I knew I wanted my own business. But however, I discovered that it wasn't in a restaurant line cooking. When you're looking at tickets all day, and I'm not cut out like that. So I took to catering with how many, what time, and what they're having. A little organized chaos. And so, it was, and the last class was what I knew least about, which was pastry. And so when we graduated, I'm like, I'm not ready to go yet. And everybody else is ready to fly the coop. And I was like, when you're making these charlottes, these cakes and chocolate ribbons, and just these really fun things that I knew least about. And then it was time to go. But it was an awesome experience, and I had a car, so I don't know if you know, Vermont has many products that they're known for. King Arthur, Ben & Jerry's, Cabot cheese, Green Mountain coffee, Lake Champlain chocolates. It's phenomenal what comes out of there. They're very self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm. So you came back to Des Moines, and then you went, okay, now what?
Now what?
Now what?
So I interned at the downtown Marriott, and so I worked the stations there to get my 500 hours to graduate. And I loved it. I wanted to stay, but there was not a position for me unless I was mobile, and I was not mobile. So that's when I went to Pioneer Hi-Bred, and they opened their Carver Conference Center, and I was their catering chef at that time for Aramark. So then I left there, and I went to the Embassy Club, and I worked at the Capitol Square location, which was where they did the larger events, and was a sous chef there. And from there, I went to Drake, and I was catering chef at Drake. And so I did the in-home entertaining, which was very educational for me. And I did the in-home entertaining for, at that time, President Maxwell and the First Lady. So that was great fun, as well as the campus catering. Getting experience to start my own business.
Right. So the bug hit you at some point along that line. Now you're like, oh, well, I think I can do this.
Yeah. Okay, so So then I thought, before I go out on my own, I took a day job, so I'd have my nights and weekends. So I became the food service director at St. Pius. And of course, the first thing I noticed was the unhealthy meals. And I started to kind of try to tweak it. Yikes! You don't do that. There was food getting thrown away, and parents calling, "Why is my son or daughter coming home hungry?" And I was like, so I had to call Uncle and go back to what they were used to eating, which was walking tacos and the frozen pizza, and where ketchup was a vegetable. I don't know if it still is or not. But I, just had to bite the bullet, and it broke my heart. So I did that for a year to be able to be free at night and weekends to take on business. And I learned to. I got my wings, teaching my classes at Walnut Hills United Methodist Church. Is where I got my wings to teach classes. So they were kind enough and would put my, classes in the program, and I'd set up in the community room there, and they'd come and we'd cook, and so then finally after that year, I was ready to go to work, and I had built my home for the purpose of my business, but I had anticipated it being a full-fledged market, thus country club market.
Yeah, talk about what you thought in the beginning. Sometimes we have this image of what we think it's going to be, and then things change.
They did change. Yeah. And so I had everything in my mind. I had the facade, the floor plan. I could smell it. I knew the music. I wanted twinkle lights. I don't know if you've ever had an experience like that where you've been there. It was like when I built my house. I'd been through that front door. I slept in that bedroom. And so with this too, with Country Club Market, it was going to be gourmet, ready to eat to go, where it'd have like packages of like an Italian soiree with chicken spadini and my bread and a wine and a salad, and they'd just call in and they'd say, "I need that for 8," and they'd drive through and pick it up, and away they'd go. And with a small room like this, because God knows how many B&I groups there are for breakfast and lunch and happy hours and such. So then it came time to put it on paper and make it happen, and it was just, I think that and there was Gateway, yay Gateway, and there was Whole Foods. There was also, Jordan Creek had something out there, and Hy-Vee and their what they are doing, and it just came to me so subtly, and Terrie, stay home. It's working. People love my home, and the ambiance of being in a dining room or a kitchen at home. And so here I am, still, and that was the one thing when I went to school. I said, it's my hobby. Well, I love it as much or more when it's my livelihood, and it just, I couldn't be more grateful. It's just really been good. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about kind of the nitty-gritty of the business. I mean, you launched a business, and that takes some business planning. So, accounting and legal and that kind of thing. So, did you get help, or how did you finagle all of that?
Well, I knew someone who was a business manager, so he helped with the major players, like an attorney and a CPA, and so I went with that, and I just keep good records myself, And like it's tax time now, so I just keep track of everything monthly, and then I consolidate it, and I give him the numbers, and he plugs them in, and it's a done deal. So if
So no
you,
shoe boxes for you.
yeah, I do. Well, because I have to have the supporting
Correct.
receipts.
But it goes into a
Yeah.
spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's just a good best practice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. Time gets away from you, and you know, and I'm not kidding. I can take cat naps, and I can get up at 4 and go to bed at 10, and it's just whatever it takes. I'm happy. I'm a happy girl. You know, you just turn on the music, and yeah, it's great. Don't you think? Everybody, we're doing what you love.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah.
Thinking about it.
It isn't. No, it's just this is what you have to do after so many years. It's ingrained, and you get inspected, and you have to be compliant, and
Yeah, there's business things that have to occur. What about marketing? How did you get clients? I mean, if you opened in your home, did you just put a sign in the yard?
there is a sign in my yard. Ever so subtle.
There might have been more to it.
I joined a networking group, a breakfast group. I don't know how I don't know. Marianne maybe was probably a part of that, but and a lunch group, and then, yeah, eventually, and Marianne is my promotional materials girl.
Yeah.
she's also credited in my cookbook.
So you had to get out and network.
And yeah, find
And
your
tell
people,
people
your
what you
tribe,
do.
as you say.
That's right. Because they don't just come.
No.
Because you have a business card.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes they do, but it takes
Well, you have to hand it out.
relationships. It takes somebody who knows somebody, a lot of
Right.
times who knows somebody. You don't just automatically seek,
Right.
because you're not always knowing what I need. You know you need something, but what is it?
Right.
And then you talk to people, and then it becomes clear, and then you get connected.
Right. Perfect. Do you want to talk about, let's talk about the cookbook.
Okay.
Did you just wake up one day and, I think I'll make a cookbook? No? Okay.
No. How
Tell
long
us the
ago was
journey
it,
of
Bobby?
Cookbook.
Years, yeah. Yeah.
And it's a beauty too.
I'm, you know,
Are you holding?
Holly was there with me through this, and she held me as I cried many tears of the reality of it coming to fruition was just larger than life for me. It's just, you know, when I just don't know what to say, you know. There's meeting Julia, and there's creating a cookbook, and you know, it's just things happen in life that God created you for. I'm firmly a believer. I hope that's okay with everyone, because I didn't do this on my own, and He provided me with the people, and that's what makes the world go round. That we enhance each other's lives and businesses. It's a fact. I'm so in love with your boots. I just looked out. Check all these boots out. But you know, just to digress a moment. So I said, move over Julia. Then I said, move over Martha. And I started doing cooking segments for KCCI. And then I moved into Iowa Ingredient, and which I'll be there on Sunday doing an event and a couple segments in May, and KCCI has asked me to come back, so noon on the 10th. So I'm here to tell you, I just really want to empower. I think that's with my cooking, and every day it comes stronger to me. That if I hear anybody, I think somebody walked away from me because I was putting, like, what is it, the four-quart press?
Oh, full court.
Full court press on her because she was talking about doing a bakery. And I'm like, and she works in her niece's bakery in the summertime. And I'm like, well, gradually put some of your own things in there. Create a name for yourself, you know, and so don't tell me anything you're thinking about doing because, man, I'll latch on.
Here's your plan.
I will latch on, and you're going to do it because you want to.
Do you want to talk about why it's a legacy cookbook?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's a legacy cookbook. Because I don't have children. So this will live on after I'm gone. So that's why I wanted to, starting with bringing friends and family back around the table is a mantra of mine, and it's been on my return email address for many years. And when we talked about it, that's just what it had to be, because I wish everybody could eat around the table at dinner time like I did. So friends and family is for short. But in any case, this is paella, which is a Spanish peasant dish. And if you don't know, in reality, it's like, I don't know, it can be 4 or 5 feet round. It's over an open fire. And everybody brings what they have from their kitchen refrigerator, whether it's vegetables or proteins or what have you. And then they sit around it. And then this little wedge in front of you is yours, and then the next person, that little wedge is theirs. And it's like, don't cross that line. That was my shrimp. You just took my shrimp. But in any case, so it's sort of a take on friends and family back around the table, because this in essence is a Spanish peasant table. You just tell me when you want me to be quiet. Because now you got me going.
I love it.
So the pineapple is my logo, the international symbol of hospitality. And I love that it's local. It's done by Business Publications, who does Des Moines Magazine and Business Record. Yeah. And then my dedication to my mama. And these are the thank yous. And there's Mary Ann. And there's Holly. And there should be Bobby. We'll make an addendum. Bobby Segura. And then the table of contents. And so it starts out with my God-driven, when I was young. So my dad, it's in the DNA. He was a cook in the Army. And then it talks about when I sat on the kitchen counter, and my dad was an influence because we had an apple tree that was grafted with 5 different apples, and he would make apple fritters on Sunday with powdered sugar and maple syrup, and I wish I had that one. And then we had grapevines. He'd make wine. Mom would make jelly with the paraffin wax, if you remember that. This is my first day of culinary school when I was just a little grasshopper. And then with our friend Julia, and it goes into basically what I've sort of told you about where I am. And these are the poker girls. Though they got after me, what'd you pick that picture for? I look so fat. I'm not smiling. My chest is so far out.
That's how we roll.
So if you see any of them, just tell them they look fabulous.
And so these are not all of my recipes by any means, but these were my favorites. And there are there's scripture throughout. And there are also Terrie's Tidbits, things that I'm adamant about, which is one, washing your lettuce, another is toast your nuts. And then, so we go on and on. And Claire said she just made the shrimp and grits back here.
Fantastic.
I don't remember where it is. I can't see right here. And my bread recipe that you all tasted is right here if you want to buy the book.
But you'll never get the stone recipe.
No, that's right. Sorry.
It's a secret.
Sorry.
So sorry it's not in the book.
But that leads to another thought. My mom had a coveted recipe through the years when she worked or had bridge club or what have you. She made a daffodil cake. Does anyone know what that is?
Oh, I saw it on your Facebook.
Yeah. And so she would never share the recipe. And you know how women always shared the recipes for the casseroles and the jello or whatever else it was. And they always wanted her daffodil cake recipe. And so, and being this is dedicated to her, and there was urgency because she's failing, I said to her, Mom, is it time? Can I put your recipe in my cookbook? And she's like, I suppose. Okay.
So maybe I can have your scone recipe in 30
Yeah, right. Stick around. That'll be in my memoirs. So, yeah, so there's all cuisines. I love, Greek, Asian, Mediterranean, what have you. So we get back here and
somewhere back there.
You get to your mama.
there it was. Claire. There's some scripture.
Oh, yeah.
Shrimp and crispy bacon over cheesy grits. That's my bacon. So yes, and so then here we
Oh,
go.
we're almost there.
We're almost there. Holly knows this one back and forth. She lived and breathed it for a few months. So this is me and my mama. Love her to pieces. And so these are the recipes I grew up with. And they appear,
Completely authentic.
yep, they appear in her handwriting on recipe cards. And I had several people go, oh, why didn't you expand them out so we could make it? And I said, that takes away from it. I want the nostalgic. It's my past. It's my legacy. And some of us, can decipher this because it's how we came up and what we recognized as salad oil would be.
Probably like
Anybody?
lesson oil.
Canola or vegetable or oleo. How many of we know oleo? The other thing is some of the younger people I have found can't read these. Can you read cursive,
Yeah.
Jasmine?
My grandma,
Taught you?
Yeah.
Or you got in before?
yeah, before it ended.
Good. I'm so happy to hear that.
My grandma still writes her recipes in cursive too that she gives me.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, keep those so close.
Oh, yep, I have them in a folder.
Yay. So,
So then you have some of Grandma's too.
so yes, I'm sorry, Claire,
No, you're good.
So yes, so moving, did I go by it? Yes, so here is my mom with her mom, my grandmother. And she was way before her time. She was a pharmacist.
This is cool.
And so she took vitamins and she grew a garden and she ate vegetables and fruit and just amazing. And to look at her recipes. Our watermelon pickles are one of the things that I really remember her making. Anybody ever have had them? It's watermelon season, girls and boys. And so, yeah, so this oatmeal bread here, rolled oats, molasses, oat flour. Who knew they had oat flour? This would be like, who knows, 50s, 60s, yeah? And, yeah, so I just marvel at her cooking. And my grandma Kohl, she passed when I was younger, so I didn't know much about her, but I do remember, and it says it right here, and see if this doesn't strike a chord with you. When we'd come to her house, she'd have her house dress on, she'd have an apron, and she'd be wiping her hands on her apron, and then she'd pull her hanky out from her sleeve and wipe her head and put that hanky back up there. Does that ring a bell with anybody? I mean, I just didn't see, because she'd been in the kitchen all day or in the garden or, and how versatile that apron was, for carrying things in from the garden or, I mean, just, the apron, is to protect your clothes, but it has so many. I just emailed, I don't know, or Facebooked the apron. I don't know if any of you saw that. That is really, really nostalgic and very beautiful.
One thing, we didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I'm curious about it, is time.
Oh.
We all cook, but to cook for large numbers of people, there's got to be an art to the timing of it and what you can do when and how you manage your day to run the business and actually cook. And so how do you manage the time? Because some of us are probably in businesses where you are project managing a lot of things at the same time, which you do in cook. Oh, this is just to give me a heads up for Q&A. So talk a little bit about time and then we'll do Q&A.
Well, I'm a list person. I haven't yet graduated to the phone. I'm still pencil. I still like to cross out and add in, and I know there's something about that progression, and so I have my weekly calendar, and I back everything out. So you know how many events you have, and then you get your recipes, and then your grocery list, and then what prep you can do, and then you start to stockpile equipment, and then you do the recipe packets, and it's just with perishables, it's a whole nother animal than it is with accounting, or I'm not diminishing it, but with perishables, yeah. It's just a finer line to be concerned about their integrity.
You make it seem easy. We all know it's not.
I know.
You're doing.
Sometimes I step out and I do marvel, but it's just, again, it's just that gift I've been given.
It's your passion. Well, I think you guys probably have a lot of questions. So
I don't know. They all know me.
Well, that's true. That's true. All right. Do you want to start with questions? Okay. Oh, Mary Ann. Oh, and then we will repeat her question, so it's mic'd.
I wonder if you have a favorite recipe that you enjoy making, not necessarily the end result, but that you actually enjoy the most fixing it.
So Mary Ann's question is, what's your favorite recipe to make or dish to make, the process of making it, or that you enjoy?
Well, can it be a course? Of course. I love soup. I love to make soup, and its texture, its consistency and flavors, and it's so versatile with herbs and vegetables and noodles or rice or orzo or chicken it's just so friendly and wholesome and satisfying and you can eat it for a few days. But it's soup. Is that? It's not a particular.
No, I like that too.
So I have one in here. That's that I love for this time of year. It's a chilled soup and it's a white gazpacho. So it's made with English burpless, seedless, whatever you want to call them, cucumbers, white grapes, slivered almonds, and it's delicious. Yeah, that one I like a lot for this time of year.
Maybe in a couple weeks.
I know, yeah, right, exactly. It's still looking like chili. Thanks, Marianne.
What would be your biggest advice to somebody wanting to start their own business? What was your biggest aha moment for you when you got started?
That's a good question. Because it all formulated in school. All of, so I had a clear picture when I graduated. It was just fruition, step by step. And so I'm not sure how to answer that. Help me out, Lenore.
Like I've got a vision like you do.
Okay.
But I'm trying to get the steps, and that's why I'm here today, to learn from somebody who's
Write
been there
it.
and done that.
Write it down, keep notes, keep a side note. Here's all these, and then put your to-dos. Because sometimes they're not what you can do today, but in the future.
You need to do this.
And then one day, each day, try to tackle one big thing. What do they say? There's a book, Eat the Frog First. Does anybody
first thing
remember
in
that?
the morning,
Yeah.
eat the frog.
Yeah.
Do the
Do the
hard
biggest
thing,
thing
or
first.
whatever, do the thing first thing in the morning.
Mhm.
But
So-
one thing you mentioned to me about advice for anybody that wants to be their own business is to believe in yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
You do. You just have to have that burning desire that, I'm sure you all know, because you've all been doing what you're doing for, I don't know, Marianne probably the most. How many years for Marianne?
25.
25. Bobby? Carol?
10 years.
Carol, you've
10
gone
years.
through a couple.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an education in itself. To reinvent yourself is awesome. Don't be afraid to change gears. Take what you've learned and follow it. When I left the corporate world and I gave up vacation, sick, insurance, incentives, and I traded that out for the love of what I got to do. And I think that speaks a lot, that you have to be able to find that happy place. Bobby?
So I want you to tell us, I know that you do a good job on Facebook, and I know, I want to hear how you really have promoted yourself. I kind of know the answer to this question. I know that a lot of word of mouth. What about advertising? What about mail campaigns? What about billboards or TV ad, that sort of thing? What worked the best for you personally? What felt the most comfortable for you and was the most successful for you to promote your business?
So the question is, what did you feel was the most successful for promoting yourself and your business? And maybe it's changed over the years.
I think that's right. We evolve. And the more friends it sends out, the more feelers. And And I think you know, anybody that's a friend of me on Facebook, I know I can be a nuisance because I'm forever. And I love to promote everybody else too, so if I get, you know, your thing, then I repost it, because I mean, that's how, you know, otherwise we may not ever know, you know, that, about what you do, but, yeah, networking is the biggest, and Facebook, and, constant contact is what I use. You say you know the answer, did?
Well, a lot of personal recommendations.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that people will.
Reviews.
Right.
Huge.
Reviews.
Yeah, any of you, whoever, whatever you work with, go to their page, tell the world, you know, what a great job they did. Build one another up. I mean, yet, you know, to a friend and passing over lunch or what have you, but when you put it on the Facebook page and how many people are going to view that, speaks loudly. So, to each other's horn. Jess.
Okay, so I have a whole list of questions.
Okay. Hey, strap yourselves in.
Well, you two are gonna have coffee, right?
Yes.
So-
I won't
We're
ask
gonna
all
go to
of
the
them. I won't ask all of them, but I guess one of the things that I would like to know, when you have a new client, like, and they want your catering services or your personal chef services, like, what type of questions do you ask them, like their dietary restrictions or allergies or anything like that? Like, what type of questions do you ask them?
Through the course of time,
So the question is, when you first initially meet with a client, what's your fact-finding method?
and that's really important because as I customize each event, I have a form that who you are, you know, where you live, what's your phone number, that just keeps me on task. What the day, so that they correlate. How many people, what style of service, what the budget is, what the vision is, what the courses are that they're looking for. And one that seems to evade a lot of people is likes and dislikes. And that is, you know, oh, mushrooms. You know, I mean, you want to know where to start. And that's why I customize each event. I don't feel like I went to school to give you just a menu. I want to be creative. I want you to feel like, after all, this is exactly what you would want to serve. And then, yes, dietary restrictions, and religious as well. And then what was the other one? But, and it evolves with time, you know. You want to be sure that you add something like, needs to be finalized 2 weeks in advance. Let them know up front that there's a due date, and then they may incur an additional fee.
Okay. That was one of my questions too.
Do you, this just occurred to me, do you charge up front, or do you require a deposit?
Lots of people want to, like, I have a wedding coming up, and she wants to get it taken care of. She wants to pay for it, not have to worry about it the day of, and that's fine. You know, I'll mock that up for her. Some people I don't know, and I may do that for. Repeat business, no. It just depends. You know, I do say partial or total payment in advance, and that leaves you an open door, you know, to be able to confidently and ask for it. And if they offer it and say, "Oh, I see," you can say, "No, I know you," or "No." You know, I bet you have to be stern up front. You gotta be, you know, not after the fact and say, "Oh, I meant to tell you," because then too late.
Just set the expectation, whatever it is.
And
whatever you want it to be.
high. And your prices. Don't be afraid to ask for what you're worth.
You're in business to make money.
That's
You're in
right.
business, you're not just doing this.
The
just-
deposit holds the date, that's
Yeah.
our, and it's a non-refundable.
Yes. Yes, that's a good one.
So, adding on to that, do you have, like, your clients sign contracts? And who comes up with contracts if you do?
I never have.
Okay.
I never have.
Would you maybe recommend it?
Yes, it depends on who, what your niche is.
It might be a good best practice when you're
To
starting
start out,
Yeah.
see how it works for you. And then as you, get a feel for how people receive that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good girl. Proud of you. Give her a hand. She's going places, ladies and gentlemen.
And then, you did say you do like the 2 weeks finalization in 2 weeks. I guess to add on to that, what is your cancellation policy?
That one's relative because it may be weather.
Yeah.
That's been a tough one. And especially with perishables that you've already purchased. And you may be able to use them for another event, or they're a part of your par that you just keep on hand. And that I would determine by incident. But set it up, and then it can be negotiated.
Okay.
I got one for Terry.
Yes,
So Chef Terry, you can't say yes to everything. And
that's
some-
right.
sometimes you have to say no because it's not a good fit. Is there any example where you said no and you were grateful that you said no, or were able to refer them off to somebody who maybe did that style of food or could handle a bigger event, or?
That wasn't a question.
Yes, I like that a lot. At first, well, no, I can't say, yeah, okay, at first, no, not at first. Off the bat, I knew, because I'm a one-woman army, that I can't do the tent and awning and servers. So people know when they hire me, it is food only, unless it's disposables. I don't do china and table linens, and that's entirely up to you how you want to proceed there. But so that pretty much cuts and dries who I can do, and it's typically smaller groups, and that works for me because it's more personal and intimate, and you get to make memories a lot closer, like this wedding that's going to be for 20 in their home. Or, I did a class, and of the 8, there were 3 birthdays in May. And it's amazing how close to people you can get in 2 and 3 hours. It's like, oh, do you really have to go? Every class, I'm not kidding you, every class I've ever had in my home, I say, if you stay, I'll make breakfast.
We're gonna have an Airbnb.
I'm starting to take that personal.
Got an extra bedroom and all.
And that would be a really good breakfast.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, guys.
It's good deal.
I know.
Yes, no, me too.
I would.
might get the recipe.
We have time for one more question. One more, anybody?
What's next for you? I mean,
What's
doing
next?
this and
After
you've
the
done
you're going to
your-
read.
You've done
Oh,
your,
what's
you've
next?
done your cookbook. Like,
Oh, well,
what's-
tonight I'll be at Kitchen Collage. I don't know what you were referring to. Yes, I do have a soul-driven project following the book. I've got to give it time. It's still blowing up, shall I say. But yeah, tonight I'll be at Kitchen Collage signing for their first Friday. Sunday I'll be at IPTV and doing a cooking demonstration. I think there's going to be 100 in the audience. It might be the friends of IPTV, kind of that group.
Yeah.
Because I know I have to do enough for 110. And demonstrate the recipe. And it's a Cinco de Mayo theme, so it's going to be fun. So I went with a salad because it's just, and with jicama and chipotle peppers, salsa in the dressing, and yeah, so it'll be fun. And then my next project after the book. So I'm driven. Watch out. No, I know what the next, okay. All right, so now you got me lit. Okay, so it was move over Julia, met Julia, move over Martha, started doing TV. So now, this is going to hit the New York bestsellers list. Why not?
Move over, Ina.
Move over, Ina. And I used to, when I went from Southampton to Montauk, I'd go through all the Hamptons and Narragansett. It was an hour commute either way, and I'd go through West Hampton, and I'd stop at the Barefoot Contessa. And by then, she had sold it, but it would have been like my dream store. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you. I knew you'd be good at this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.